Have you ever noticed how often we betray our own limits, not because we want to, but because we're afraid of letting others down? Maybe you've taken on one more task at work, even when your schedule was already bursting at the seams. Or maybe you said yes to something social when all you really wanted was a quiet evening at home, just because the thought of saying no felt too heavy with guilt. It's a common pattern, stretching ourselves thinner and thinner, hoping to be everything to everyone, until we're left drained, scattered, and quietly resentful. But there's another way to move through life, one that begins with honoring the space we need to breathe. Stoicism doesn't ask us to isolate ourselves or push others away. It simply teaches us that our time and energy are sacred, and protecting them is not selfish. It's wise. Just as rivers have banks to hold their shape and trees have bark to shield their core, we too need boundaries. Not as barriers to connection, but as lines that preserve our peace and define where our responsibilities end and where our healing begins. Setting these boundaries isn't about being rigid. It's about clarity. It's about understanding what matters most to you. Maybe it's uninterrupted time with your kids or quiet moments in the morning to gather your thoughts, and then defending those moments like your life depends on them, because in many ways it does. Those small, intentional choices shape how aligned we feel with who we are and what we value. It's not always easy. In fact, if you're used to people-pleasing, the very idea of setting limits might stir discomfort or even fear. You might wonder what others will think, or whether they'll see you as cold or selfish. But the truth is, living a life of virtue isn't about how many people approve of you. It's about how deeply you can live in integrity with yourself. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be liked. It asks you to be true. And when you respect your own limits, you actually become more capable of showing up for others, not less. Start small. Say no without an essay. Protect your quiet moments without apologizing for them. Communicate with kindness, but hold firm. You'll be surprised how many people will actually admire your clarity and how few truly expect you to sacrifice your well-being for their comfort. With time, you'll feel the shift. Less resentment, less exhaustion, more presence, more power. You'll begin to notice the way your body softens when you keep a promise to yourself. The way your mind clears when you stop trying to be everywhere at once. That's what it feels like to live in alignment. That's what it means to choose peace over pleasing. And then something deeper happens. You stop reacting to everything around you. You stop blaming others for your burnout or your stress. You realize you're not a victim of your calendar or your commitments. You're the one who sets the tone. You become responsible for the life you lead. And responsibility, though it sounds heavy, is actually one of the most freeing things there is. Because it returns the power to your hands. It reminds you that even when things fall apart, even when something fails or someone disappoints you, you still have control over your next step, your mindset, your response. Instead of spinning in frustration over things you can't change, you start to look inward. What was my role in this? What could I do better next time? You shift from blame to learning, from reaction to reflection. That's ownership. That's the path to growth. Mistakes become teachers instead of triggers. Disappointments become invitations to adjust course, not reasons to give up. You begin to see life less as a series of things happening to you, and more as a canvas that you are actively painting with each decision, each boundary, each intentional choice. There's a Stoic practice that might help along the way. It's called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds grim, but it's actually a tool for resilience. It's the habit of preparing yourself mentally for challenges before they arrive. Not out of fear, but out of readiness, so that when life throws its inevitable curveballs, you're not shattered. You're steady. You face the hard days with grace. You acknowledge your role in your struggles. And through it all, you keep showing up for yourself, not perfectly, but honestly, with reflection, with purpose, with the quiet strength that comes from knowing your boundaries and owning your life. And in that space between what happens and how you respond, you build something rare, a life of clarity, of peace, of real, lasting freedom. You want to go somewhere in life? Then remember this: taking ownership isn't something you do once and check off your list. It's a daily discipline, a commitment you renew every single day. Every time you choose to accept responsibility for your words, your decisions, your reactions, you're not just managing the moment. You're building something. You're shaping your future, strengthening your will, and planting the roots of confidence deep within. And with that comes a quiet power, a grounded peace that only comes from living in alignment with your values. When life throws chaos your way and things feel out of your control, stop for a moment. Breathe. Ask yourself, what part of this can I own? Maybe you can't change what happened. Maybe the circumstances are beyond your reach. But what you do next, how you choose to respond, that's always in your hands. And in that choice lies all the power you'll ever need. But here's something we rarely talk about. The way we talk to ourselves when we fall short. That brutal inner voice, the one that whispers, you failed again, you're not enough. Why do you even bother? We hold ourselves to such impossible standards, and when we slip, and we always will, that voice gets louder. Would you ever speak to a friend that way? Of course not. So why be so cruel to yourself? This is where self-compassion changes the game. It's not weakness. It's not an excuse. It's the courage to treat yourself with the same understanding you'd offer someone you love. The Stoics, people often think they were all about emotional toughness, but what they truly mastered was balance. They believed in clear thinking and not letting emotions control you, but they also understood something deeply human. We all fall, and when we do, it's not about punishment, it's about learning. Imagine you've made a mistake. Instead of tearing yourself down, stop and ask, what would I say to someone I care about if they were in my shoes? You'd probably say, it's okay, you're human, you'll do better next time. Now say that to yourself. That shift might seem small, but it can completely change how you handle setbacks. It quiets the storm inside and lets you move forward with clarity and purpose. And let's be real, life isn't easy. Everyone struggles. Everyone faces moments of failure and self-doubt. You're not alone in that, even when it feels like you are. There's something powerful in recognizing that your struggles are part of what it means to be human. That understanding builds connection, not isolation. It softens the hard edges of your inner world and helps you carry the weight with more grace. Another essential piece of this puzzle is mindfulness. Just being with what you're feeling without letting it define you. Observing your emotions as if you're watching them from the outside, without judgment, without attaching your worth to them. That's what the Stoics were after. Not emotionless existence, but emotional clarity. They practiced presence, awareness, control. When you embrace mindfulness, you give yourself the space to act wisely rather than react impulsively. If you really want to cultivate self-compassion, make reflection a part of your routine. At the end of the day, look back and ask, where was I hard on myself? Where could I have responded with more understanding? Even a few minutes of this can shift your entire mindset. Journaling, meditating, these aren't just habits, they're mirrors that help you see yourself clearly and kindly. And don't get it twisted. Self-compassion doesn't mean lowering the bar. It means refusing to beat yourself down as you reach for it. It's about building the strength to keep going, even when things get messy. It's about having your own back, especially when no one else is watching. That's real strength. That's Stoic resilience. Now think about how much you've grown over the years, and think about how much there still is to learn. That awareness, the idea that there's always more out there, it's not meant to overwhelm you. It's meant to fuel you. The more you realize you don't know, the more you open the door to curiosity, to humility, to the kind of learning that never ends. Because true wisdom isn't about having all the answers, it's about never stopping the search. The Stoics understood this at their core. They didn't just seek knowledge, they lived it. They treated every success, every failure, every quiet moment as a chance to grow. For them, learning wasn't a phase, it was a lifelong journey. And that's where real evolution happens. Not in the comfort zones, but in the unfamiliar, the uncomfortable, the uncertain. Picture yourself stepping into a challenge that feels too big. Maybe it's a new role, a personal crisis, or a dream that scares you. The Stoic way is to embrace it, not avoid it. Because every time life tests you, it's teaching you. It's showing you what you're made of and what you can still become. So ask yourself often, what did I learn today? Was there a moment that taught you patience? A setback that forced you to adapt? Even the dull days have something to offer, if you're paying attention. And when you stay open like that, open to new ideas, to perspectives that challenge yours, to people who see the world differently, you grow in ways you never could on your own. Never let pride get in the way of progress. The Stoics warned us about arrogance for a reason. They knew that real wisdom begins with admitting what you don't know. That's how you stay teachable. That's how you keep growing. Read widely. Talk to people who see life through a different lens. Step outside your bubble and get uncomfortable. That's where the magic is. But it's not just about absorbing knowledge. It's about reflecting on it, applying it, living it. Don't just collect insights. Put them into practice. Make time to think about what you've learned and how it's shaping your decisions. Let your reflections guide your next step. That's how you turn information into transformation. The point isn't to be perfect, it's to be better, to be wiser, kinder, more resilient, to keep showing up for yourself every single day. Because when you commit to that, when you commit to learning, to evolving, to living with awareness and compassion, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. So keep that spark of curiosity alive. Let it pull you forward. Let it remind you that growth isn't just possible, it's inevitable if you stay in motion. Every day is a lesson. Every challenge, a chance to rise. Let that be your truth. Let that be your path. Life has a way of hitting you hard when you least expect it. Just when you think you found your rhythm, something comes along and knocks the wind out of you. Setbacks show up uninvited. Disappointments creep in like shadows. And in those quiet moments, when it feels like the world is pressing down on your shoulders, you start to wonder if everything is stacked against you. That's not just your story, it's everyone's. The question is never whether life will test you. It's how you rise when it does. Some crumble. They retreat, letting the weight crush them. But then, there are those who stand taller, not in spite of the pressure, but because of it. They use those moments to sharpen themselves, to dig deeper, to become something more. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about looking the storm in the eye and saying, I can work with this. That's where Stoicism comes in, not as a cold, emotionless philosophy, but as a source of quiet strength. When life feels overwhelming, when change knocks on your door and you're not ready to answer, Stoicism gives you the tools to not just survive it, but transform because of it. Change is relentless. It doesn't wait for permission or arrive when it's convenient. And yet we resist it every single time. We fear what we can't predict. We hold on to what's familiar. But what if we didn't fight it? What if, instead of resisting, we accepted change as part of the rhythm of life, like tides or seasons? Think of the energy we'd save, the peace we could preserve, just by choosing to flow with it. That's the heart of amor fati, the love of fate. Not passive acceptance, but active partnership with whatever life brings. It's a shift in mindset. It's looking at every twist and turn, every setback and surprise, and thinking, this is part of my path. I can grow here. Because when you meet change with openness, everything softens. The resistance fades. You start moving with life instead of fighting it. And in that space, you gain power, not over what happens, but over how you respond. And that's where the real strength lies. Not in controlling the uncontrollable, but in mastering your inner world. The Stoics were clear about this. Focus only on what you can control, your thoughts, your choices, your attitude. That's where transformation begins. Because even if the outside world is chaos, if your inner world is steady, you'll never be truly shaken. Of course, that doesn't mean it's easy. Growth rarely is. It asks you to let go of old versions of yourself, to shed outdated dreams, to pivot when needed, and walk away from things that no longer fit. Sometimes it's adjusting a routine. Other times it's walking a whole new road. But every time, it's a step closer to who you're meant to be. Start small, reflect often. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? Where is the opportunity hiding in this struggle? These aren't just questions. They're keys. They unlock insight. They shape perspective. They help you see the purpose in the pain. And then there's the matter of emotion, those storms within that rise up fast and fierce. Anger, fear, excitement, despair. We've all been caught in their grip, said things we didn't mean, made choices we later question. Because when emotions take the wheel, reason gets left behind. But Stoicism doesn't ask you to suppress what you feel. It asks you to understand it, to pause, to observe, and then to choose your response deliberately. That pause, it's everything. In that single breath between stimulus and action, you reclaim your power. It's the space where clarity lives, where intention rises above impulse. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. The instinct, rage, the stoic response, a deep breath, a moment of calm, and a quiet letting go. Not because you're weak, but because you know what truly matters. That kind of control isn't denial, it's strength in its purest form, and it's not just for anger. Even joy, when unchecked, can lead you astray. Excitement can blur judgment. The goal is balance, a steady emotional state that allows you to navigate life with wisdom instead of being yanked around by every feeling that passes through you. This is where reflection comes in again. Look back. Notice when your emotions led you, not with shame, but with curiosity. How could it have gone differently? What can you learn? Over time, you build a habit of awareness, a stronger relationship with yourself, a deeper sense of calm. Because here's the truth. Emotions are waves. They rise, they crash, and they always pass. You are not those waves. You are the ocean beneath, constant, deep, unmoved. And the more you embrace that truth, the more unshakable you become.